So now that we know your personal for, starting SJM, can you share the link to a bigger societal issue of mental well-being and suicide, and how this is all linked with the business as well?
So as I was writing You Have Arrived last year, I really was trying to answer the question, why is it like this in the United States of America? Why are we so different than our European countries? Why are we so different? And I started looking at the data, and I just was really being an investigative journalist. And so I had to watch some NPR things, some interviews. I had to really dive back in the history books. But what I discovered is during the Industrial Revolution, around the turn of the century, there was a lot of conversation around safe work environments throughout the world, because we were developing, and so all the other countries were also doing the same. So there was a lot of dangerous things happening. People were building skyscrapers.
Right.
And people were dying in mines. There was not safety equipment. There was children working in sweatshops. There was people dying in a job, and then the very next day they pull someone off the street and not do anything to fix what happened to their colleague. So Mother Jones was this woman from Ireland. And she came over, she lived in Canada, and her whole family died of yellow fever. And then she moved to Chicago, and she opened a dress shop. And then the Great Chicago Fire came through and took that out. And then she was like, I have nothing to lose, and everybody around me is suffering, and I have nothing to lose. So she went on the picket lines, and she made some noise, and she went to Congress, and she testified, and she decided to be this voice of the American people. And she was heralded in 1905, I think, as the nation's most dangerous woman, because she had so much to say, and she was so articulate, she was targeted, and she knew what she was doing. She had picked her passion, and she was going for it. She was taking everybody along with her for the ride. So
one of your role models, right?
Oh, I've dedicated my book to her. She's amazing. Yes. And I would love to go back in time, and I would love to do a feature movie. I could star in her. No, I don't want to star in her.
Anyway,
they can pick someone else. They'll pick someone else to do that better. But she needs to, there's a magazine, there's a Mother Jones magazine, which I'm a subscriber to. And it's a cool concept. But what really happened throughout that process of getting laws changed, which was, thankfully they did, right? They got unions, they got 40-hour work weeks, they got pensions, and they got safer work conditions. Well, that sounds like the entire nuts and bolts that anybody would ever want. But they failed in this country. They stopped lobbying when they got those things, and they weren't able to get the legislation to include federally mandated and supported and like federally mandated leave. So people's mental health was always going to be protected. And so now what we have is this generation and generation and generation, 4 generations of people that have lived in this, oh my gosh, if I don't keep working, if I don't have to take vacation, I'm going to keep working. I need to make more money. We're very, very materialistic in this country. But
and we're very addicted to busyness. Like I just moved back to the US from Europe, and it's quite the opposite where I lived in Germany. It was like, you don't work on Saturday and Sunday, everything shuts down on Sunday. Like there's some restaurants open, but that's it. You don't go grocery shop. You don't do nothing. You walk in the woods with your family or something. Yeah. So yeah, there is this addiction to being busy in the US.
And that's something, Christy, Rutherford, I believe is her last name. She was on a podcast, and she believes that the employee has the responsibility to draw those boundaries. But the reality of it, after working in 24 companies over my life, the reality of that is that employees don't always get the ability to do that, right? Employees have to show up, and they have to work, and they have to keep food on the table. So as employers, we have to remember that there is a power struggle, and our people might say they're
Absolutely.
fine. They're usually not. So that's where a consulting firm comes in and just takes the temperature of the room, gives you some ways to cure some of these things that some people might be dealing with, and an anonymous portal to goodness. And so, it's a really scary thing for a CEO to say, I want somebody to come in. I mean, they do it. They do it in Microsoft. They do it at Apple. They do it at Ford. But for somebody that's a small to medium-sized business to say, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing by my company, and I'm just willing to just take the free fall and let somebody else tell me those things. We don't have to change everything, but you know what? The way I look at it is, if you can just do a survey, if you can just ask your people, right? anonymously.
so they feel heard and seen and acknowledged.
And
Yeah.
then you can do what you want with that information. We can
Right.
help you. SJM can help you. There's lots of other companies that are doing similar work. I believe we're doing it better than anyone else, but I'm a little
Right.
jaded.
Well, I think the other thing too, like I was asking in the question about suicide, like we all, unless you haven't been paying attention, but we're all pretty aware that the US has a mental health issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very predominant.
Yeah.
And as an employer, maybe your responsibility isn't to take care of someone's mental health, but it is a responsibility to contribute to their mental well-being because they spend so much time, right? And wouldn't you rather be the employer who does that versus ends up finding out something worse has happened to your employee?
Let me just go a step beyond there, because I think that this is the work that Dr. Sally Spencer Thomas is doing. And she and I both agree to this, that take the scenario of children's fluoridation in their mouth. We know that children at a certain age, they need fluoride. So we go into the schools, we provide them with those services. We talk to them about good dental hygiene. It's not the teacher's job to do this. This is something we do as a society for children at this time. So if we're going to do that for children when they need it, why wouldn't we meet those adults where they're at, which is in their workplace? So it is exactly the right place to address suicide prevention. It is exactly the right place for us to find these people, because where else are they going to go? We can't go to the bar to find them. Not everybody goes to the bar. You can't go to the churches. Not everybody goes to churches. Everybody goes to work. Everybody goes to work. So an employer needs to be responsible, and they need to get themselves suicide prevention certified, because that is the creme de la creme. That is the number one thing that companies can do to get mental health wonderfully. Like it's expensive and it's a lot of work, but it's the best thing you could do for them.
Right.
But you don't have to do all of that. Doing something, just do something. But we have a pathway to all of that through SJM.
Right.
There's a pathway to all of that. So I had a colleague that killed himself about 2 years before I resigned, and I knew he was sad. And I've had a neighbor, and there's kids in my hometown last week that are just given up because this society is so burnt out, and there's shootings in schools. And I know this sounds very grandiose, but I believe that workplace burnout is the problem in America. I believe that it is the thing that I'm going to be remembered for. And that's the only thing I want to be remembered for. I'm going to be remembered for raising 3 amazing kids, but I'm also going to be remembered for shining the bright pink light of empathy into where it's needed most. And that is by far America's workplaces.
Yeah. And I think that the problem of mental health is a huge thing to take on. So to say that you're up for it is really a beautiful thing.
There's a lot of stigma, LauraLynn, and there's a lot of stigma.
Well, there's absolutely.
We don't want to admit, and that's the number one thing. There's resources available. People are scared. They're afraid that they're going to lose their job. They're going to lose their spouse. They're going to be belittled. They're going to be teased. No, none of that's happening. This 2024.
Right. And so there's many places I feel like we could take this conversation, but I'm also being mindful here is that I guess when we recognize that maybe somebody around us is not feeling mentally well, whether it's a coworker or a family member or something, that we don't necessarily hide from that, like that we're willing to say, hey, I'm here, right? And that's part of what I think you're saying for in the work system. It's that there's this, that we give them the opportunity to speak about it versus chastising or embarrassing or something else, shaming, whatever the thing is that is happening. You know, to create an environment where people can feel like they can, share those things. And it's a huge, actually, one of the women I interviewed for my PhD, that was her stigma. She had a mental illness that she dealt with. She was from Lithuania. And it was something that carried over for her when she moved onward to other countries, and her family kept bringing that up about the problem of that. And they didn't really believe her even that she had it. That's another whole layer to it. But I think what you're talking about with employers is we need to have environments that allow these kind of conversations to happen. And that, the employer may not be able to pay for all of the care, but at least they create an environment where it's okay to talk about it and then support them in finding the resources.
Yes. And one of my dearest friends, about 12 years ago, her name is Erica Averian. You can go back and watch that podcast because that was magical. She was a chief people officer before anyone even knew what that was. So she and I have worked really heavily in developing my company. She's been an inspiration to me because she's now the executive director for the Florida Foundation for Correctional Excellence. And so she's taken these principles of humanization to the next level. And I'm so proud of her. But I think in an organization, it has to be structured in a way that supports these programs. And it's just work. We're just going to do the work. And, we're not all HR people. There's only a limited amount. These HR people can't be everywhere at the same time. So this is what the suicide prevention, work looks like. Everyone needs to be educated about what those signs are. How do you recognize that? Because we all have to be on the lookout for each other. And also we have to know when we need to ask for help, that we need to break down that stigma of asking for help. And that's something that we can do in the workplace. And it is some training that needs to be done. And it is hard. It's not easy work, but it's worth it. So I just really know that when we start with a company, they're going to have a structure that is probably working for them. Maybe a little tweaks need to be happen, but if they have a recruiter, then that's an excellent opportunity for us, because you know what recruiters are? They're just telling people what they want to hear. They're getting people in and they're letting people go. And it's just this revolving door. And that's not a fun job. I've worked with a lot of recruiters. It's not a fun job. So I'm going to switch the script on that. And I'm going to say, we're going to make your company so cool and so attractive that you don't even need a recruiter anymore. So we can take that HR professional that really wants to do a good job every day and recreate their role and retrain them into a chief people officer. So that's the person that we would do the follow-up with, right? That person is going to administer all these programs that we've systemized empathy and now activated into the company. It's about a 14-month process. We're ready to go.
Great. Is there anything else from everything we talked about today that you feel you want people to know about SJM, about you? Anything else that just so they understand?
Well, I recently decided to bring my business to my roots. I lived in Bay County, Florida, which is the Panama City, Destin, Panama City Beach area.
Florida.
Yes, ma'am. I lived here from 2005 to 2014, and I decided to bring my business here to connect with the people that need me most. And Hurricane Michael really, really, really took the wind out of a lot of people's sails. A lot of them are very traumatized from what happened. A lot of them need support financially, mentally. A lot of companies are struggling with that level of anxiousness. And we've got another storm that's brewing in the Gulf right now. People are freaked out. It's a hard day for them. It's a hard day. So Hurricane Michael was really, really tragic. It was a 4. I think it was a 4. But it really turned at the last minute, and it knocked out a lot of people's houses that they thought they were safe. And so it was horrible. A lot of people died. A lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people decided to move away from Florida. And that's, at the end of the day, it's only going to get worse here. I mean, but we love this town and I love these people. And I know a lot of them are hurting. COVID came right after the hurricane. There's still blue roofs on tarps when COVID hit. And I've been coming back to this area for the past 10 years, and I'm coming back. And I'm really excited to be here to get plugged in. I just joined the Chamber of Commerce this morning, and I'm really excited to see how I can help. So that's what I'm doing over here in Bay County for now. And I'm trying to get over here full time because it's a cool place to be. I love it here. So
and so what I'm hearing too is that if you have a county that is struggling as well, that it couldn't hurt to reach out to Shannon and just see, if there's something that SJM may be able to do to assist, a struggling county. This isn't just about people who have got it all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here 3 weeks, and I've pretty much figured out the clip and figured out what we need to do here. I'm learning every day. I'm listening. I'm getting information, and I'm activating for Bay County. So
of course you are.
I'm so excited.
Shannon is like a little firecracker. Like you just set her down and put a little light on her, and then off she goes.
I tell people all the time, my middle name is Joy, and it's both a blessing and a curse because it can be exhausting sometimes.
Well, Shannon, it has been such an honor to be able to sit and talk with you about your work and your vision, and to kind of turn the tables for a minute for Small Quiet Voice, and get to have you be one of the voices that will be heard by other people. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this with you.
Well, it was your idea, and I think it was a good idea, and it felt great. It felt great to share this with you. And I just want the world to know that LauraLynn Jansen is going to save you all. And I knew that when we got back into touch together about 18 months ago, I was like, how can I make sure that this woman is in front of as many people as possible? So it is my pleasure to be in business with you, and to all our other colleagues that are in the back. I mean, they're amazing people, and so we are excited as a team, and we're gonna go fix some things and help some people. That's our goal.